and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by. So today we will discuss two articles. The first one is from the Hindu newspaper, which is titled as "A Disconcerting Picture Behind the Headline Numbers." So this article talks about the recent data for the periodic labor force survey, which has been released. So what are the basic insights to this data shall be discussed in this article. The second article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as Setting New House Rules. This article talks about maintaining the decorum and the problem of disruption that is severely being caused in Parliament these days. And that is why we need to know that what can be done in this regard and how better maintenance and discipline can be maintained in the Parliament. So this newspaper analysis is presented by me. My name is Sheva Khan. I am a law graduate and had completed my law degree from Uttaranchal University in the year 2019 with a gold medal in my batch. I have also been a national debater and a public speaker, and here at Law Seco, I'm working as the manager for current affairs vertical. If you wish to connect with me, you can find me at my Twitter as well as LinkedIn handles. The links to both are available in the description box below. So let's see what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. Recently, which state introduced the Bhumiputra Bill 2021? Your options are Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Jharkhand, or Goa. If you know the answer, you can put it down in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. Parliament is a platform to deliberate, discuss, and decide, and not for disruptions in a democracy. Comment. So if you wish to download the PDF of today's slides, or you want to avail other study materials like the current affairs newsletter, daily static quizzes, monthly current affairs quizzes, etc. So you can participate in our Telegram channel. So basically you can look out for the link which is there in the description box below, or you can scan the QR code that you can see on your screens right now. Also, for other crisp and interesting content, do not forget to follow us on our official Instagram channels for Law Seco Judiciary, CLAT Prep, as well as UGC Net if you're preparing for any of these exams. So let's start a discussion quickly for the first article of the day, which talks about periodic labor force survey data. So recently, the third annual round of the PLFS data, which is the periodic labor force survey data that was for July 2019 till June 2020 was released. So we should remember that what is the PLFS? So basically, as the name itself is suggesting, this is a periodic survey, or this is a periodic understanding or counting of the total labor force of the country. Now, the labor force means that the people that are looking for the employment, or total number of employable that are looking for the employment in the country. So that would amount to the labor force of the whole nation. And thus, the periodic labor force survey is prepared by the Ministry of Statistics and Industry, basically by the Ministry of program implementation as well. Okay, so basically this is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation that prepares the periodic labor force survey data. Now let's understand that what is the disconcerting picture behind the recent data. That means why are we actually discussing this, or what has been the outcome or the insight of this particular PLFS, the recent one. So the periodic labor force survey 2019-20 was expected to provide the official estimate of labor market distress caused by the low GDP and the lockdown. So definitely it was very much expected that because of the low GDP, as we were already hitting a lower side of the economy, and of course because of the lockdown which was caused due to the COVID-19, so there was definitely an expectation of the distress that could have been seen on the labor market. But however, the data shows a decline in the unemployment rate to 4.8%, which is the lowest in the last 3 years, which means that the unemployment is not that severe, which means that according to the data, more people have been provided employment as compared to the data from the last 3 years. Yes, this comes out to be a bit surprising because we, as being outsiders, if we try to understand the labor market, we could understand that the market was into distress because of the low economy, and as well as the lockdown caused a lot of factories and all the workplaces to shut down, and that is why we generally thought that the unemployment rates would go higher. But surprisingly, the data actually shows a decline in the unemployment rate to 4.8%. Also, the LFPR, which is basically the labor force participation rate, it increased from 36.9% to 40%. Now, the LFPR basically is that the number of people that are seeking the employment. So basically, this also increased, from 36.9% to 40%. And the WPR, which is the worker population ratio, it also increased from 34.7% to 38%. So there was an approximate increase of 4% in both the things, be it the labor force participation rate or be it the total employment rate. Now, the worker population ratio basically means the number of employed people, the people in the labor force that have actually been given the employment or that actually are working with a proper employment. So that also has increased. So there was an increase in the share of population in labor force, along with even a higher increase in the share of those who were able to find the employment. So this is definitely the idea that we are getting from the previous data. And if we talk about the workforce composition, so there is rise in the workforce. It was accommodated by agriculture because, as we know, that even in the times of pandemic of the COVID-19 and also in the following economic system, agriculture was one only segment or the only sector of the Indian economy that was flourishing. So thanks to the rains that took place last year as well, because of the good monsoon, the agriculture went comparatively higher. We had greater produce than ever before, and that is why the workforce or huge rise in the workforce was actually quite much accommodated by the agriculture. And the proportion of the unpaid family members also increased. Now, because many a times there are family members that are working on the same, what we call as the disguised employment as well, that a lot of family members, they work on the same piece of land. They think that they are employed, but are they really getting anything in return of their employment or anything significant in return of that? That is definitely doubtful. And that is why the unpaid family members the proportion has actually increased. So as we know that the PLFS data, to be very precise, it captures the key indicators of the labor market. And there are two most important key indicators. First, as we discussed, was the labor force participation rate. And the second was the worker population ratio and also the unemployment rate. So basically, these are the three most important indicators. And it also provides data on earnings of different segments of workers. So let's see that what has been the impact of lockdown. So the average monthly income for salaried workers has increased by 2%, which has actually been adjusted according to the inflation for April and June 2020. But the real monthly per capita consumer expenditure, it actually declined by 7.6%. And that is why this does not really match. Because if the salary or the income is increasing, so definitely the capacity of a person or a consumer to spend should also increase. But that was not the case. And thus this PLFS data is seen to be quite erratic as compared to the kind of data that we had before. So if we talk about strengthening the statistical system, so no official data is currently available on poverty from 2011 to 12 or on farm income after 2013, and no recent data do we have on the migrant workers as well. And that is why if we want to keep a better track on the entire system of the labor market in the country, we need to have precise data available in all the fields available. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about frequent disruptions in the parliament. So frequent disruptions in the parliament, they are being seen as replacing the genuine reason why parliament was there, that was discussion. And that thus discussion is now no more being the foundation of the parliament. And that is why we are totally missing it out on the legislative functioning. So let's understand that what are the causes of disruption and changes that are required, which have been mentioned in this article. So in 2001 conference in parliament that was there to discuss discipline and decorum in the legislature, it identified 4 basic reasons for disruption. Firstly, dissatisfaction amongst the members of the parliaments, that actually they had inadequate time for grievances. And of course, when our grievances are not addressed in the proper manner, we tend to become more impatient. And in such a scenario, there is of course a higher chance that more and more disruptions would be caused by the members of the parliaments. So that is why maybe giving them better time for grievances, for which we will study the UK or the United Kingdom model. So we will see to that as well. Now, the second cause which was mentioned was unresponsive attitude of the government and retaliatory posture of the treasury benches. Now, what happens is that, like, say, for example, the opposition has something to say, or they have some kind of grievance, or they have anything, they want the government to listen to. And if the government, basically the ruling party, is unresponsive or is showing unresponsive attitude or is not being very responsible on giving or being answerable, so in that manner also, in this situation also, the decorum might be disturbed. Thirdly, political parties not adhering to parliamentary norms and disciplining their own members. So definitely it's very important that the political parties also keep a bit, a strengthened hold on their members so that they're made to adhere to the norms and, the rules of the parliament. And fourthly, absence of prompt action against disrupting members of parliament under the legislature's rule. So, and if at all, now there has been an instance where a particular MP or a group of MPs they try to disrupt the functioning of the parliament. So definitely some stringent actions should be taken against them. And if in case there is absence of this prompt action, so this gives a leeway to the other members also to misbehave in the parliament. And that is why a kind of deterrent effect, not very high, but some deterrent effect must be created in the parliament. So, two of the conferences suggested that the enforcement of a code of conduct for the MPs and MLAs, and we should increase the sitting days of the parliament so that better discussion and debate can be done. But it has not been enforced so far. So this article also makes a comparison as to what is the current practice in the United Kingdom Parliament as well. So over there, the Parliament meets for over 100 days a year, wherein the opposition parties get 20 days on which they decide the agenda for discussion. So precisely separate 20 days are given to the opposition parties to put forth their concerns as well as contentions. So the main opposition party gets 17 days out of 20, and the second largest opposition party gets 3 days out of 20. So the decisions of the House are passed on to the opposition days and are not binding on the government and are an opportunity for the opposing parties to gather national attention on the issues wherein a healthy debate can actually take place. So here the Canada also has a similar concept, and thus if at all now since the parliamentary system of the government or the system in India has also been taken from the United Kingdom, so we can definitely move on to this model as well in order to reduce the chances of disruptions in the parliament and have better and healthier debates and discussions. So yes, this was all for the day. We hope it was a good session for you all. Thank you so much for staying tuned with Lawseco. If you liked it, do give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to our channels for more updates to come. Thank you so much.